Hey, my name is Ivy Scheck-Snyder, and I'm a gaited horse trainer in Northern Illinois. Today we're going to be talking about speed control. So you want a slow horse or you want a relaxed horse, sometimes that means training with speed. Now that is not the only solution, and I feel like I'm going to be harping on something that I talk about a lot, and that is primarily what we are doing is training our horses. So I get asked this question a lot, or the idea that people want their horse, they say, I want my gaited horse to be able to walk slowly with quarter horses. Great! I know horses can walk all different speeds, no matter what breed. They can walk slowly, they can walk fast. No big deal. How do you get that? Well, let's talk about what happens when we train horses. The idea of training horses is getting the horse to do what we want when we ask for it and not when the horse chooses, because we all know that horses can walk slowly. Like we're in a rush to get somewhere and they decide, hey, today we're going to walk slowly and eat grass. And then there are other times when the horses just want to walk faster and walk ahead of us. And we're like, no, walk slowly with me. So it's not a matter of the horse being able to do it. It's a matter of the horse doing that thing, whether in this case a slow walk or a fast walk, when we want them to. And hey, you got, I don't know how to say your name, from the Netherlands. So this idea of getting a slow walk or a slow gait. Hey Rachel, it's early Wednesday morning in Australia. Hey Nan, hey Bonnie. So the idea of getting a slow walk or a slow gait or a slow canter, there's quite a few things that come into play. One, I'm going to talk about, again, how do we know that the horse knows what we want? Again, there's no magic button inside the horse's mouth that when we pull on the reins or on their nose, if you have a nose band, there's no magic button that says when we pull, they know we want them to slow down, right? That does not exist. Horses are not born knowing that pressure means slow down, okay? How do they know that? So we're going to take it back to the basics. If we are riding a horse and we want them to slow down, let's say you pull on the reins and they slow down. What should you do? Well, you should do one thing immediately, which is release the reins fully as a slight reward to the horse that the pressure goes away. That's called negative reinforcement. You apply pressure, and once the horse does what you want, the pressure is removed. Ta-da! No worries. And, or I guess that's negative punishment, maybe. Anyway, we're getting him to do what we want. We remove the pressure, and then he gets some slight release from that. But let's say we're training something new, and the horse doesn't know. Well, when he slows down, because we pull on the reins, and we release the reins, but then we should stop, let him stand there and think about what that means. Think about that when we released the pressure, we let him stop and rest because that was the right answer. That's what training is about, is helping the horse find the right answer. So for the people that are riding with quarter horses and their horses are walking fast, how does the horse know we want him to slow down? And it's something I think I want people to be asking more often. If we ask the horse to do anything, we have to think, how should the horse actually know how to do this? So we have, hi Linda, hey John, and Lori just joined, and Monica from Colorado, and Sigrid has a 3-year-old who wants to walk slow all the time. Opposite problem. What do I do? So I'm going to talk about that, Sigrid, in just a minute. So as we're working on our speed control, one of the things most of us know we want is we want the horse to give us a speed, we want to be able to give a loose rein, and we want them to maintain that speed. Well, let me tell you this, and this is going to be bad news for some of you. This is rarely something that you can train on the trail, or it's pretty much something you can't train in a group. This is something that needs to be trained in the pasture or the arena. It doesn't really matter. Hi, Cindy from Vermont, and hi, Nancy. And Carrie says the daughter's pony can't keep up. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. So when you're working with your horse, let's say, for example, in this example, you want your horse to walk slower. So you go out in the pasture and you're riding. What you want to practice is actually different speeds of the walk. Don't just go on the trail and pull on your horse and expect them to slow down and stay there. What you want to do is go and work on it in the pasture. So go in the pasture, saddled up, you're riding, and you push your horse to walk faster. And they're like, yes, I love walking faster. And then you let the reins go and you're saying, good boy. But then you pull on your reins and say, now walk slower. So at first he might be confused. Maybe he walks slower for a couple steps. What should you do? Stop and praise, because he gave you what you asked for, which is walking a couple steps. We have, hi, Christy from Kentucky, and Heidi and Nancy. Hi. And so this idea that we stop and praise for him walking slower, he all of a sudden found the right answer. Light bulb goes on, because we've trained him that when we stop and praise, that means you did the right thing. So then we walk off, we speed the walk up, and then we slow it down a little. And then he slows down a little and you stop and praise. And he's like, oh, okay. So then you just keep practicing that. You speed up his walk and then you slow his walk down on a loose rein. Don't hold the walk slower. And if he walks maybe instead of a couple steps, he walks a few more steps slower, stop and praise. And do that. Speed him up, slow him down. Speed him up, slow him down. So that becomes normal. And see how slow you could get him. Can you get him to inch along without holding the reins tight? Could you get him to inch along so slowly that all the horses would pass him? Stop and praise. And then speed back up. So the idea is that he never is just going slowly because he gets the option to speed up. Now you can do the same thing as you gait, and this we'll talk about speeding a horse up in a minute. But let's say you've got a horse that can gait or trot. This applies to trotty horses as well. But you're asking the horse to he's gaiting fast, so slow him down a tiny bit. And if he slows down a tiny bit, release the reins. And if he stays slow, stop and praise right away, and say, "Good job! That's all I wanted. That was easy, right?" Hi, Regina. Hey, Diana. Connie says timing is everything. It is, but you have to be willing to stop and praise and release the reins. John says, I have a Kentucky Mountain horse who has a wonderful saddle rack. However, my endurance friends trot faster and his horse wants to keep up. Can I train to speed up that comfortable rack? Yep, we'll talk about that in a minute. If I don't, remind me, but I'm planning to talk about it. So we talked about how to slow down. The same thing applies to the canter. Now, a special note on the canter. A lot of times horses get balance from doing a fast, big canter. And so what I do is I alternate between cantering, a medium speed, then I push them faster, get their legs under them, do a big canter, and then I bring them back down again and ask for just a few steps of slower. And then you know what I do? That's right. Stop and praise. So again, this is not like there's a magic tool or magic cue that makes your horse go slower. It's training. And it's something that you could do on the trail by yourself. Absolutely. And you could do on the trail with like one other person. But ideally, you've practiced this in the pasture or the arena where you can stop and let the horse praise. Maybe let him eat if you want. Maybe give him a handful of treats. But you stop and let him think about it. Because that's how you slow them down. Now, a quick note, if you're riding with horses that are slower than your horse and you're constantly fighting with your horse still, don't ride with those people. It's not very fair to you or your horse. So train your horse to walk slower or ride with a group of people that go your speed. The same is true if you ride with people that are faster than you. It's not fair to your horse to make him pace or canter to keep up. You should train the faster speed or ride with a different group. Now, we're going to talk about training a faster speed. And again, if anybody has questions about the slower speed, I'll come back to it if we need to. But let's talk about the faster speed. So again, this is something you need to train on your own and not trying to keep up with other horses. Most horses of all different sizes, they can be shorter, can gait at about 7 to 10 miles an hour at a saddle rack comfortably. Okay? That doesn't take too much work to get there. But they don't always start there, for sure. So what if you have a horse and you want to specifically work on gaiting faster? Well, it's a training thing, right? So what am I going to say you should do when you get a little bit of speed? I feel like I'm repeating myself here. That's right. If you are riding and you get a little bit more speed, what should you do? Stop and praise. Okay, so when you're riding and you've got a nice little saddle rack, maybe it's 4 to 6 miles an hour, what you're going to do is you're going to lean back the tiniest bit. Tiny bit. Unless your horse is pacey, then don't lean back. But you've got a nice little saddle rack. It sounds like pucka, 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 pucka. You're like, this is good. Horse is relaxed. You're going to use your legs. Give a little cluck, a little squeeze. You're looking for a tiny bit faster. But still staying smooth. If you get that, stop and praise. Get a few steps faster. It's okay if it's coming home. It's okay if it's going away from home. Don't ask for too much. Question, how to estimate the miles per hour your horse is traveling. There's a lot of apps on your smartphones that'll do this. I can't remember what exactly it was. Maybe someone will comment what they use. I've used GPS watch as well, and a GPS that I've used, and an app on my phone, which no longer works, but I haven't done it in a little while. But there's quite a few out there that'll track the miles per hour for you during your ride. So the thing is, you can get a much faster saddle rack. Most horses can get up to 12, but that's pushing it if you have a shorter horse. But easily they can do 9. Most people really aren't. 12 is fast. Most people can't gait on most trails at 12. You need a nice flat level surface. If anybody saw that spotted saddle horse Buckskin that I did, that he's gaiting about 12.5, that is booking. I couldn't imagine doing that on trails that weren't very even or had lots of twists and turns. So rarely do people go over that unless they're doing speed racking. So if you're getting 8 or 9 miles an hour, you're keeping up with most people that aren't cantering, and even some cantering horses. So the idea is that when you get a little bit of speed, you stop and praise. How else is the horse supposed to know to keep it smooth? This works really well. I've done it with other horses, gotten speed very, very easily, very quickly. Even in 3 days, someone brought a horse to me that was only gaiting at about 4 miles an hour. And after 3 one-hour lessons, we had the horse at about 7.5 and 8 miles an hour. Nice, loose, beautiful saddle rack. No big deal. If your horse is a little bit trotty, you may have to ask them to lift their head up just a little bit, but all you're looking is for a few steps faster. Okay, because I know this is something people have been asking about, is how to get a faster saddle rack. And the idea is you train just a few steps at a time. Just a few steps at a time, friends. That's all it takes. And your horse will be gaining faster in probably a week or 2, not more. But only if you'll spend a little bit of time. Do it as the easiest possible, like a flat road or a flat dirt spot, not sand, not deep grass. Let me go back and look at some questions here. Let's see. Stacy says, my Velvet is head up. Ears as radars won't relax. Always in a hurry and afraid out in the pasture and the trail. Stacy, I have a lot of videos on how to train the head down. That's the very first place I'd start, is in the pasture, training the head down. I've had so many horses learn to relax by doing this, but it doesn't happen in a day. It happens in over a week or 2 as the horse learns to relax. And I also incorporate letting the horse eat food when they do relax and settle down. And I've had a lot of success doing this, even with horses that are more nervous and anxious. Sarah says, what does my praise look like? Well, when I say stop and praise, what I really mean is I stop and I say good boy or good girl, and I gently tap them and rub their neck. I don't pat them hard, gently rub their neck, and then I sit quietly and take a deep breath. I always go. I make sure I'm releasing the tension in me. I'm making sure I'm breathing so that the horse breathes, and I sit there for 30 to 60 seconds. And I encourage you, if this is a struggle, set a timer on your watch, count it out loud, check your phone, listen to half a song, make yourself stand there and let the horse rest. That's what's super important. That's what allows the horse to process and continue to learn and not get stressed out. Kevin says, my Foxtrotter has taken me years to get a good gait. Good job getting it. He's finally able to do a very nice gait, but it only lasts 50 yards and I can't get him into it again. How do I continue? Well, part of it depends on if he's pacey or trotty, because if he's pacey, you want to ask for head down. And if he's trotty, you lift the head up and correct it and push for forward. But here's the thing. What you want to do is get those 50 yards and stop and praise. Okay, 50 yards and stop and praise, and 50 yards and stop and praise before he breaks. And then the next time, based on whether he's pacey or trotty, Kevin, we'll ask him to drop his head and keep going, or we'll ask him to lift his head up if he's trotty. And it's very specific which one you do, because it's different based on if they're trotty or pacey. So if you want to message me, Kevin, or ask another question on here, let me know if he's toward the pace or the trot, because it does matter what we do next. Amarin says, do I stop completely when you praise, or do I stop asking? I stop completely. I'm going to do another video on the most important thing you can do for training a horse to do absolutely anything is to stop and everything and let them think about it. If you're on the ground, stop, pet him once, and then stop touching him. Look away, relax your body language. If you're riding, let the horse stop completely and just breathe. Sit there, don't do anything for 30 to 60 seconds. I made a video that talked about stopping and letting your horse rest. Just stop and stand. Whoa, halt, whatever you want to call it, don't move. And I said you should do this every time your horse gives you 1 or 2 steps. She said she did this for 3 days and her horse went from gaiting hardly at all, like a step or two, to gaiting down the road. She said all she did was stop, and she made herself count to 60. She made herself count 60 seconds because she knew she wouldn't rest long enough. This is the single most important thing that you can learn in training any horse, is to stop and not do anything. Let the horse think about it. Let him process. Let him lick and chew. Make yourself take a deep breath. It is the game changer. It's how I can get results so quickly on these gaited horses. I can take a horse that's gaiting 1 or 2 steps and have them gaiting half a mile in 6 or 7 days in riding 20 to 30 minutes. These are short sessions, but I'm stopping and doing nothing while the horse rests and thinks about it. That is how horses process and learn, not by pushing them through it and doing more and more and more. It's a good question. Sonia says, my horse did a flying pace at an endurance ride that kept up with other horses hand galloping. They were impressed. Yep, the flying pace is just a really fast pace that's often high-headed and has a balance, but the balance happens so fast it's not as uncomfortable to ride. But yes, and plenty of gaited horses can keep up with horses that are cantering, just because some cantering horses are slow. Gracie says, I love tuning in from Tennessee. Hey. My release of pressure and stop and praise is everything I try to pass on to my friends. Also riding with different groups at your speed level. Very interested in training faster saddle rack for my young mare instead of allowing a fast stepping pace. Absolutely. If your horse leans toward the pace and you want a faster saddle rack, what you want to do is really, again, don't push for too fast. Just push for a little faster and work on head down at the same time as getting a little bit of speed. And if you get that, stop and praise, right? Don't push for too much. I know you said you do stop and praise. That's all you need to do. If it's a stepping pace, do head down. If that doesn't fix it, slow it down a little. If that doesn't fix it, stop, back up, go forward again. But as soon as you get that a little bit faster, stop and let the horse rest. It works. I have gotten horses up to much faster speeds in just a few lessons because of doing that. The stop and praise is really a game changer. Stop and sit there for 30 to 60 seconds. Longer if you need to. Teresa says, I understand the stop and praise, but doesn't that become a habit for the horse and want to stop constantly after a period of time? So here's the thing. People ask me that question all the time. If I stop and praise all the time, won't the horse just want to stop? I can tell you that I'm always very specific when I'm asking for things. So if I'm gaiting down the road, I'm not asking for the stop. So you know what? I don't let the horse stop. If I want him to stop, I'm asking him to stop, and then he can stop. So I've never had a problem. I've always had horses that were considered lazy by the owners. Once they figured out how to do a nice saddle rack, that I was going to give them a loose rein, they loved gaiting. I could just take them down the road, open them up, and they would just gait along. They rarely ever stopped to turn around and go home. They rarely stopped to eat grass. They just moved out at a speed I asked them. It was so fun, but I'm also very specific. I don't let the horse stop whenever they want to. I stop and let them praise when I tell them. Often I say good, or then I say whoa. So if you're having an issue, all I can say is just ask for forward. Just say, keep going, and then stop and praise when they go a little bit farther. Don't be unfair to the horse. Be fair. Horses and animals, just like people, have a sense of fairness. Don't ask for more than the horse can give. Kevin says he's very trotty afterward and almost never paces. Okay, Kevin, we'll go back to yours. So basically, if you get 50 yards of gait, okay, listen, this is for everybody. This is only for trotty horses, not for pacey horses. You're going to get your 50 yards and stop and praise. Do that for a whole day. Gait for 20 to 30 minutes, stop and praise, or stop and walk. Let them walk for a little while. But then the next day, go to day 2. Ask for 50 yards. And right about when you start to feel them trot, what you're going to do is you're going to put your hands forward and you're going to pull up on the reins while asking him to keep going. This is not a slowdown. This is maintain the same speed and pull up. And he's going to start trotting. But if you pull up on his head to try to get his head up and he continues gaiting, let's say he's thinking about trotting, and as soon as you feel that gait change, you lift up on his head and you feel him smooth out, you're going to let the reins go, and then you're going to stop and praise right there. Because he got to the point where he wanted to trot, you pushed him a little bit farther, and then you stop and praise. And then he's like, oh, that's what you wanted. Okay, then you repeat that after you've let him rest. You ask him to gait. He gets to that point where it starts to trot. Put your hands forward, lift up on the reins to get his head up. As soon as it smooths out, drop the reins, let him go a step or two, stop and praise. Do that for your next day, and I think you're going to find he's going to get right past that. I've always had really good success with trotty horses and never had any issue. So let me know how that goes. Elaine says, what about using a clicker when he does good or well? Absolutely, Elaine, you can use a clicker in place, but you always want to do the stop and praise. So if your horse gets gaiting and you click and praise, that's excellent, but give him a chance to stop and think about it, not just the food. That's a mistake that I commonly make when I'm training. If I'm using a clicker, I'll click and give a treat, but not allow the horse to rest. Even though the horse is ready to move on, I need to make myself stop and let them think about it longer. So that's an error that I'm constantly doing and constantly trying to get myself to do better at. Karen says, my horse gets a really hyper when my mare goes out with him. It doesn't matter if she's in the front or back. It sounds like you need to do some time training. Do head down training at home first. And then if you can get someone to ride your horse, don't go anywhere. Just ride in the pasture and work on head down there. Then go a little bit farther away from home, work on head down then. And again, stop and praise whenever she starts to relax. Let her stop and think about it and rest. Wait time is important, Sonia says, when teaching kids and horses. I totally agree. I have found that to be one of the biggest game changers with everything I do with horses, no matter what I'm training, the side pass, the canter, a faster gait. Trish says, if the horse doesn't want to stop but will walk relaxed, better let them walk than fight. I'm thinking yes instead of creating tension. Yes and no, Trish. If I'm on the road or on the trail and the horse really wants to walk, I will let them. But that's only for the first couple of days. I've done the training in the pasture so that horses will just stop and stand there. They get the idea. Now, it doesn't mean that they won't have an off day where we walk instead of stand. Because again, you're right, we don't want to fight. But my horses, and I don't just mean mine, horses at a clinic within 10 or 15 minutes, even the hyper ones that wouldn't stand, all learn to stop and stand because my whole mentality is like, we stop, we're chill. It's great. This is a great place to be. There's no tension here. And so, again, not that I don't want you to fight, but your horses should learn to stop and stand at least a little bit. Though, yes, walking on a loose rein is better than fighting, but it's a training issue. Your horses should be able to stop and stand. Now, this is not stop and stand when the other horses are leaving you, but this is stop and stand in the pasture or stop and stand when you're training by yourself on the road or on the trail. It's a training issue and something to work on another day. But that stop and stand is really what lets them breathe and think about it. Kevin says, my horse is high-headed. I really don't know how to get it down. He almost looks like an Arabian the way he holds his head and tail. Kevin, what I would recommend then is you work on some head down, which I have a free video. I'll post a link in the comments, a free video on how to do that. Again, my name is Ivy Schecksteiner. I'm a gaited horse trainer. I'm going to go through the rest of the questions. If this video has helped you, please share it. That's how the word gets out and more people see these videos, is you guys are sharing it, and that is awesome. That's the best thing you can do. If you want access to more videos, you can join my private training group. It's $100, but you pay it once and you have lifetime access. If you don't have the money, that's okay. I'm going to keep doing these free videos. All right, so let's see. Kim says, I'm working on getting my anxious walker's head lower. When I apply any pressure to the reins, he speeds up and the head gets higher. Do I hold pressure until he lowers and releases, or should I stop and praise? So Kim, excellent question. Have you seen my head down training video? Okay, you really need to watch that here, but I'll explain it, but that's going to show you, and it's free. Again, it doesn't cost any money. I'll put the link in the description when the video's over. Anybody can watch these live videos, even if you miss them live. They'll be available on my page, no problem. So Kim, when you're riding, this should be in the pasture, and it should be on a small circle, just like the video shows. What you want to do is apply light pressure with your reins, and do this at the walk first, okay? And hold that light pressure and ask them to stay in the walk, because many gaited horses have been trained when they feel pressure on the reins to speed up. And so we're kind of fighting that. You're basically having to go back to square one. You have to assume the horse doesn't have a clue what you want and have to be training him what you actually mean for him to do, okay? So keep that in mind. He's not being belligerent or stubborn. He's doing what he's often been trained to do. So if I understand your question, what you want to do is hold light pressure, and what you want to do is release when you see him tuck his nose. Then you drop your reins and stop and praise, okay? If he starts to go fast, you can pull a little bit harder to slow him down. Again, do this on a small circle. Then, again, walk off after he has a chance to think about it. Hold light pressure on the reins. Don't let him speed up. As soon as he softens his nose, huge release of the reins, and then stop and praise. Then what you do is you keep asking for that softness, and eventually you're gonna ask for softness and release, and ask for softness and release. And then when he drops his head a little, that's when you'll stop and praise. And again, the video is going to show you this much better than I can explain it right now. Once you get it at the walk, then you do the exact same thing at a faster speed. So you ride the pace or the trot or the gait, and you do the same thing. You ask him to speed up and you maintain the same speed, not fast, and you hold light pressure and slow him down if he goes too fast. Hold that light pressure, and as soon as he softens, drop your reins. And if he drops his head a little, stop and praise. And you're just going to repeat that. And it won't take but a few days if you're consistent at releasing as much as you can and stopping and praising. So I hope that makes sense, Kim. Heidi says, this is my first gaited horse. He just does his running walk. I'm skeptical that it's a running walk. The running walk should be much faster than a walk, and the head should be going up and down and not be a foxtrot. So very few horses do a running walk today. Do all gaited horses have trouble maintaining their gait? Mine doesn't seem to have a problem. Again, Heidi, whenever someone says their horse gaits really well, I'm always skeptical. You know why? Because people tell me that and they show me their horse and their horse is doing a stepping pace. Not that your horse necessarily is, but so many people don't know if their horse is doing an actual gait or is just smoother than a trot. So many horses have trouble maintaining their gait, and there are some that really don't have trouble, but many people that say, oh yeah, my horse gaits, and I'm like, I'm sure. And yes, I'm a very skeptical, suspicious person by nature, so that's on me. But I'm always like, yeah, you have to show it to me. Show me in a video first before I'll believe you. So that's on me, not on you. Many horses do have trouble maintaining their gait though. But why is that? You know what? Good question. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. Which is the topic for tomorrow is why don't horses gait? Why don't gaited horses gait? Coco says, what if a horse doesn't want to walk? That's a training issue. You go back to the pasture. You praise the horse, stop and praise when they walk. Again, this is all a training issue. You go back to square one. You can't assume that your horse knows these things. They may never have been trained that when you pull on the reins, it means slow down, especially when you use a softer bit. They may only react when there's enough pain that they change speeds. It's a very sad kind of an issue, but it's very true. Vinny says, is this skipping for anyone else? Let's see. It shouldn't be skipping. I paid for the very fast internet for you guys. Sorry that it's skipping. Go back and watch it after the video is done, and hopefully it will play smoothly for you. Let's see. Pam says, some days my Kentucky Mountain Saddle horse is calm, and some days she just won't slow down. If she leads, she is walking very fast, or she's gaining on the trail. People who ride with can't keep up. I have to stop and wait many times on a short 40-minute ride. So basically you need to do speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down, at home, at the walk and the gait. Do that a lot. Do that till she's like, she'll hold whatever speed you want, and then ride and try and see if you can do the same thing. If her head is up and she's anxious, work on head down on the trail and stop and praise. Maybe give her a cookie, maybe let her eat some grass if she walks slowly. It's a training issue and not something you should expect her to do without the proper training. Lisa says, we are stopping and praising, but she keeps wanting to go through head down or back up to get her click and treat. I'm not, Lisa, you would have to clarify what you mean, because that comment doesn't tell me what exactly is happening. You would have to either take a video or we'll have to just clarify what you mean. I wish I could help. So let me know, Lisa. Susan says we need to ride together. They're with somebody, her Kentucky Mountain, that's the same. Okay, so that's through all the questions that I have right now. So again, tomorrow we'll be talking about why don't gaited horses gait. But again, through most of the training issues people are going to come to me with, I want to help you, but you have to understand the solution is training. The solution is to stop and let your horse rest when they get it right. That's how the horse knows that they did the right thing, because we can tell someone, you know, if we're teaching a music student, I don't play music, but I know lots of friends that teach it, and your student makes progress, we can tell them, that was lovely progress. You played those notes perfectly, or your cadence was right, or you hit those notes at the right timing and you knew what it should sound like. You played it by ear. You could hear the difference. The horse doesn't understand those things. We can't tell them in English that they did the right thing. So the easiest way we can do, the best thing we can do, is find a way to communicate to the horse that he did the right thing. And one of the easiest ways that's not controversial, like clicker training, is to stop and let the horse rest for 30 seconds. All right. Lori says, our new gelding paces, but is fairly smooth. Yep, the pace can feel smooth, especially slowly. It feels like a soft trot. I did a video. He was obviously pacing, not a stepping pace. We were just beginning with him. Yep. Sometimes horses can pace and be very smooth, which is why people, but then if you speed it up, often it gets bumpy. And so that's an issue. Pam says, what time are you doing these live talks? It's 4 p.m. Central Standard Time every single day, except Saturdays are usually at noon. But Monday through Friday, it's 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. Valerie says, my Rocky Mountain horse gets spun up with more than 2 horses and wants to take off. How to handle this? She always wants to be in front, then scoots when they are behind her. So, Valerie, it can be tricky. If there's any danger, make sure you're safe. If possible, can you ride with a few horses at your home and work in the pasture and just work on relaxing and working on head down and stop and praise and then let her eat some grass? It's a total, you have to train the horse that it's okay. And the horse has to pay attention to you, and it has to know head down, and it has to know stop and praise, and it has to know all of these things that you should have trained at home. And then you have to do the same training on the trail. Remember, we've talked about things being over threshold? So this is a case where your horse is fine by itself, fine with one horse, but you put that second horse in there with her, then she goes what's called over threshold. She was fine-ish. She had issues, but she was okay with one horse or by herself, even though she might have needed training for head down and speed control. But once you put that second horse with her, she was all of a sudden over threshold, and she couldn't listen to you. And she didn't have the training to back up the fact that she was over threshold. And so that's something you want to work with slowly and do more training at home. John says, this video makes you want to go out and ride. Awesome. I want you guys to be inspired to go out and train, even though I know many of you would rather trail ride than train. But I hope it helps you guys. Again, thanks so much for watching. The video will be available as soon as it's done here. Tomorrow we're talking about why doesn't my horse gait. Friday we're talking about how to train the side pass. And you know what you're going to do while training the side pass? Stop and praise. That is the biggest thing to get a good step and to train the side pass. And I can't wait. I hope people video their side pass. I hope people go from not side passing to side passing in a few days once they see that video. Thanks for watching, guys. I love answering questions live. It's really fun. I so appreciate you guys commenting. And anyway, I hope you guys have a great day and get a chance to go out and ride. I will hopefully get some videos of this kind of training for you. I just didn't have any for you today. And I hope to talk with you later on this weekend. And you guys have a great day. And I hope you get a chance to ride your horses. You got this. Although, let's see. Lori says, after teaching head down, can I teach a specific cue to slow down? Yeah, basically, it's how you ride. If you pull and don't release, the horse knows to slow down. So it's a good question. And I just try to answer all the questions I can before I leave so that I don't have to answer them later. Anyway, thanks, you guys. You got this.